must have been part of the battle thing.
Absolutely no hope in terms of getting out of this one. Another use of the Willis Jeep at the back there. You can strap a machine gun. Germans are falling back, they have given up. That appears to be a resounding success for this Allied battle group. They've taken some prisoners, some have legged it, all the vehicles have been knocked out and are now captured. Which is one of the main ways the Tank Museum has so much World War II enemy armour, is that the British Army were pretty good at picturing it on the battlefield.
It's a convertible, mate.
Is it?
It is. It's a mate.
To be fair, you could probably get a better view of them driving around here, didn't you? Where they're coming in parking up. Should have bought my high vis and my ID.
Ah, so do I walked in without a high vis? It's got two cameras.
No, it just looks like I'm filming her. A bit weird.
No, why are you recording this?
It's quiet, isn't it?
Yeah, until it starts moving.
Richard.
Feels like it's going to be closer than this one.
Yeah. Sorry.
How close is that towards the edge of that road?
That geezer's head, isn't it? It's well close, isn't it, to that? Oh, look. Oh. Squeaky old things, aren't they, those Centurions?
The rest would be machine guns.
They never actually fought. Or maybe it's like
So cool though, isn't it? It's the real version of this is in Australia. Isn't it?
Go this way. We'll see some.
Thank you.
Just put it on the internet.
You will.
have a look on like Google Left.
Yeah, he likes the Philippines.
Are these the ones that are driving?
Turn the barrel around.
Like if I was the enemy. Yeah.
You could see it.
Yeah.
Instead, it also had a reading machine there.
They have to take it to cemetery, but then it's for
Like, it's so easy to use. We just saw this driving around here.
Yeah.
Did you see the
Lexi?
BMP then?
Where's Lexi, Dave? Oh.
Oh, she's down there.
That's what the other chap wanted to get access to, but
Oh.
I asked my boss and he said, no, we're not allowed to see what he behind the parapet.
That's she's down there somewhere. I'll hit him up. Thank you.
No, it's nice now. I wasn't here yesterday, but I was there on Friday.
these in August. It's always better.
There's some polishing in it, eh?
All of these, the guys, listen, we've had great fun with our Tank Museum colleagues here, because when we had the two here together last year, ours was a lot more time. But this is the fight.
Amiens has been fought and the German army has been defeated and it's now being pushed backwards. The German army, for the last 2 months of the war, is in pretty much headlong retreat, back to the trench lines and back towards, effectively, the Rhine. Is the brainchild of Tony Cook, built this superb replica. Now the Whippet is a bit of it's a new concept of tank design. Traditional British heavy tanks are slow. You'll see 2 Mark IVs, one male and one female. That's the difference armament, but they are slow. They will only do across country about 2 miles an hour. Now to some extent that doesn't matter, because what these tanks are doing is pushing forward, crushing the wire, taking out machine guns, and then the infantry will clear the trenches with the bayonet and the grenade. But the Whippet is faster. The original Whippet, you can go and have a look at one in the museum. It's a very rare vehicle. It's a nightmare to drive. Mr. Cook's, I think, is a little bit easier, but the original Whippet, 2 45 horsepower Tyler bus engines. 2 engines, 2 sets of transmission. I know enough people in their cars who have difficulty coping with one. Only the best drivers could handle the Whippet. It's machine gun armed, and it'll do around about 8 miles an hour. Now this is a replica of a tank called the Musical Box. When these things get behind the enemy lines, they cause absolute mayhem. Musical Box ran amok behind the German lines for something like 9 hours, shooting the living daylights out of everything. He's moving a bit slower today because we have infantry following behind. The infantry are using the tanks as a bit of mobile cover, and then you have the other 2 tanks. The tank with the red triangle is a replica of a tank that was actually found at a place called Combray, Flequier, in a hole, D-51 Deborah. She is from the Norfolk Tank Museum. It was a replica built with the aid of and then behind that we have our own, we have the Warhorse tank that was built by Steven Spielberg's team for his. Now, the Germans are opening up, there are rounds coming in. The British infantry have taken cover, they are returning fire. Mortar round drops in. You'll see the infantry aren't, it's not the early stages of the war, they're not advancing in a straight line, they are moving tactically. This is all about fire and movement. More mortar rounds, but the tanks are now closing in. You've got the Whippet, and then the Mark IV female machine gun arm, and then behind that, the Warhorse tank P-46. That is a replica of a Mark IV male. The female machine gun arm, the male 6-pounder guns with secondary munitions. Now, the infantry are closing. The other thing about it is that British infantry are now better armed. They have a Lewis gun, a light machine gun, so they're able to return a considerable volume of fire. Tanks moving in, the German army is still, they're still holding their ground. I think they're brave guys. If you've got a 28-ton metal monster bearing down on you, I think you'd want to be out of the way. And at the moment, they are holding their ground, they're in cover. But the mail tank, B-46, is closing with them. Another round dropping in. The infantry will start their rearming. Another Pan magazine on the Lewis gun. I've got a 30-round Pan magazine, so it's an automatic weapon, unlike the rifles, because bolt action. Now the infantry are going to move up, and they're going to use the tanks as cover, and they are going to close with the enemy. There goes the Lewis gun on his number 2. He's going to position himself quite carefully so he can get a decent field of fire. Tanks are opening up. A lot of smoke looking across the battlefield. The German army is now in retreat. I honestly can't say I blame them. Faced with the current British infantry, 3 tanks. A company of Lancer, no matter how battle hardened, don't have a lot off the back. Lots of fire coming in, 3 tanks moving. D-51, Deborah, as I said, that's a replica of a vehicle that's found buried on the battlefield at Fekir, Combray. And this particular tank, do go and say hello to the crews later, it's a very, very good replica. Internally, just about there, that's the real thing. Infantry moving forward. They've taken the first German positions, they're going to move in on the second. The German army is pulling back. The way it's looking as they're being pushed into retreat. This is another little bit of France liberated.
That's one of the first tanks we end up buying off the Americans to tide us over as we concentrate on other things during the the early stages of the Second World War. Now we've got an amazing lineup of British army units over here, and you'll see behind that very high brass tank, another tank. Sometimes we forget about in Britain. It's called the Valentine, and we make about 8,000 Valentines. It's a quarter of our tank production in World War II, and initially we called that an infantry tank too. Now the Valentine is put together by Vickers again. And again they do it quickly. They use a number of components that are already being manufactured. And the Valentine tank is offered to the War Office by Vickers. And because it's reliable, using already made components, the soldiers like it. It's actually a very effective tank that way. It starts, like so many tanks in the Second World War, with a smaller gun. It starts with a 2-pounder. This version is a Mark 9, the 6-pounder gun Valentine. They get rid of one of the crew members in the turret so that they can put a bigger gun in it. We asked Canada to make Valentine tanks as well. The Canadians end up making over 1,000 Valentines that are sent straight to Russia, to the Soviet Union, to help them, part of our support for Russia and Lend-Lease later. But the Valentine, technically, they called it an infantry tank because we were so desperate for cruiser tanks, the faster ones. They used it in the cruiser role out in North Africa. And the problem there was it wasn't really fast enough to be a cruiser, and maybe it wasn't heavily enough armoured to be an infantry tank, so it was neither fish nor fowl and suffered because of that. But the Valentine was fantastic because they used it for other things as well. The first floating tank was done on a Valentine. We did the Archer, a self-propelled gun with a 17 pounder on the Valentine. Now the other vehicles that we've got here, we've got the Churchill, which is the fourth version of that infantry tank with a really thick armour. And the only cruiser we've actually got with us at the moment is that Comet that's going around now. Earlier in the war, if you think of tanks like the Crusader, the A-30, these faster tanks with thinner armour, we build a better one that takes a while to go into production. Back to these delays, it's got a 6-pounder gun. We've made the 6-pounder gun in 1940, designed it, but because we're busy saying to the factories, keep making what you can after Dunkirk, they don't put it on a tank till 1942. We have this vehicle called the Cromwell family of vehicles. We're building up a much better designed tank that's going to come out as a Centurion, but in between we're going to need something to hold the gap. And that's why they designed the Comet, which is driving around now. The Comet is a really classy bit of kit, but the soldiers don't get it until late 1944. So it's got, if you listen to that engine, it's got a Spitfire engine in the back of it. Same engine was on the Lancaster. The famous Merlin, derated the joiner. So what you're looking at there is, even though the Americans wanted to keep the Sherman simple, every now and again they made an excuse. And they did another version as well for the Siegfried line with a whopping 105mm howitzer on the front to try and smash the way through. But the key thing about these tanks is the fact America could build a lot of them. With the Sherman family, 49 are given to Britain, Commonwealth countries. We supplied Russia, the Americans supplied Russia, after Lend-Lease arrangements, etc. So it becomes a standard tank for a lot of the Western Allies, and is very useful for that. Don't believe all those documentaries and everything if you just want to play top trumps, put a Sherman against a Panther or a Panther 4, or even worse, a King Tiger, whatever. That's not the game that they were in to play. So in a sense, it's a really important war-winning tank. Sherman Jumbo, it's an M4 A3E2, they call it E2 experimental at the end. They actually allow it to go straight.
Is crewed by the REME, Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers. Okay, most specifically, you're always going to have a recce mech on there. Today, we've got Corporal Glasgow and Lance Corporal Metcalf. Mitford, excuse me. There we go, I got his name wrong and we still cheered. On camp, recce mechs are responsible for checking our lifting equipment, ensuring it's all in date, making sure we can do things safely. When we get out of camp, these are some of the busiest guys and girls you know, because we don't get many vehicles caught in ditches on the tank park, but it happens when we're out there. So if you want a job where you're quiet for 20% of the time and busy 80% of the time, this isn't for you. If you want to be quiet 80% of the time and very busy 20% of the time, take this job. A few points on the SVR itself. It is a big vehicle. In that configuration, it can weigh up to 38 tonnes, and it needs to be that weight because it needs to be able to pull the vehicles. Interestingly, it can be used as a multi-purpose tool, so it's not just limited to recovery. The crane on the top, if used in conjunction with another vehicle, and I've seen this happen, it is a pretty impressive sight. Two of those put together are able to lift the turret off of a Challenger 2.
We said before, how many roughly we've got, you know, because again, scale, we're seeing one of everything here, but of course for the military, we're actually talking lots most of the time.
The MAN SV range, you've got about 6,000 vehicles, but that includes all what we generally term as army trucks. SVRs, you're looking in the hundreds. Most of them are going to be attached to regiments that you've got the Warriors, the vehicles that require that kind of recovery.
As well. People, I imagine there's people here in the audience with the skills, recovery, road stuff, they'd be perfect for this, wouldn't they?
And of course, that's the thing, we often talk about the Army giving you transferable skills. REME is very definitely one of those. It's a technical trade. Being a technical trade, some of their skills are on a higher pay band, especially if you enjoy electronics. Join as a technician, you start off as a Lance Corporal, more money, and you've got that ability to then go and work elsewhere.
So, obviously it's come on, something big and noisy behind, hiding behind the mound there. Now, another one of these classic vehicles that is essential for an armoured force, wherever it's going, but sometimes we don't look at so much down here. We only like the real big battle tanks, and here we're talking about something that recovers them.
Absolutely, so we've got the craft here. Challenger Armoured Repair and Recovery Vehicle. As the name suggests, it's armoured, it's there to repair and recover Challengers. In its OES configuration, we've got the extra armour on. She's a real brute. About 68 tonnes, you're looking well over 70 with that. She needs to be heavy because she needs to recover the extra tanks. Again, crew today by the REME, we've got Corporal Wood driving today. Big shout out to her and his girlfriend who's present here. And then at the top we've got Corporal Tucker. Hi Ali, you're out there in the crowd, I know somewhere. And Bob, who we mentioned yesterday. Let's give him a round of applause again for being ginger in this heat. Now that we've got the personalities out of the way, I should probably tell you what it actually does. The crane that you see on the top of there, okay, that is not a recovery crane. Unlike the SVR, that's not used for getting vehicles out of trouble. That's there primarily to take the pack, the engine, out of Challengers. It is theoretically possible to take its own pack out as well, although in practice highly difficult. At the back there, that's where you see the drawbars. Once they've got us out of trouble with a winch that you see on the front, the drawbars are then attached to form an A-frame. That can pull a fully uploaded Challenger 2 tank out of most situations.
And this is in this phrase we sometimes use erroneously, but theatre entry standard. It's got the extra armour on the outside, bar armour at the back, and some of the electronic gadgetry that if it's going off on combat situations.
Yeah, high threat environment. As ever, vehicles like this are combat support. They're not supposed to be frontline fighting vehicles, but they go where the frontline fighting is. So it needs to have that additional armour. It brings to memory the famous incident in Iraq. We've got Staff Sergeant Lyndhurst of the REME. He received the Military Cross for successfully recovering Challengers. Soldiers, they've definitely got the courage to get in there and help retrieve those assets.
And you have to say, if you like your vehicles, it looks perfect for its role, doesn't it? Dozer blade on the front, big and butch, perfect. It's a perfect Tonka toy. Now, another one that's pretty obvious, I imagine most of us can work this one out, it's a bridge layout.
We've got it. The bridge layout today, Titan. So, Challenger 2 Titan, Armoured Vehicle Launch Bridge is its full name. We just refer to it as Titan. Those with any form of insignia identification will see this is crewed by the Royal Engineers, okay? Today, driven by Sergeant Smith and commanded by Staff Sergeant Ansell. The engineers, okay? Very, very specialised in what they do, and the Titan personifies that. Whilst you've had the SVR and the Krav that carry out multiple purposes well, the Titan is there to do one thing. It's to bridge gaps for us, whether that be a river, whether that be some form of small ravine. This is highly specialised, and as such is vital to our ability to fight manoeuvre warfare.
Now, it's an obvious thing to say, but we have to remember this. You imagine all your tanks going forward, you've got an armoured force, you come to, as the military would call it, gap crossing. You come to a river, something like that. If you're all held up, it's a real problem. You absolutely need these assets if you're going to continue and advance. So for the army, they're really precious assets, aren't they?
Key. And the same goes vice versa. If we see an enemy one of these, it is instantly a high value target because we can deny that same ability for them. Most modern warfighting is based upon combined arms manoeuvre. The key element of that is manoeuvre warfare. You want every element moving together in unison. If one element can't move, if you can't advance, it comes to a halt and you become an easy target.
So we're going to see the vehicle. If he finds an appropriate spot, see if he's going to actually try and drop that bridge for us. But seeing him move around there, one of the issues, of course, is now you've got new kit coming in. Of course, you've got to make sure the older kit is still going to be compatible. And we saw this morning, Challenger 3 is still going to be able to use this bridge?
Challenger 3, I believe so. Don't quote me because we haven't got the prototypes. I can talk to Challenger 3 recovery. We've been out on craft recovery trials. Challenger 3 can be recovered by craft, so that's a tick in the box. Similarly, SDR has been tested with Boxer. That's a current one that they're trying to work out if it is feasible. 5 metres. Quite an impressive length that we can cover with that there. Before any of this has happened, we've reconnaissanced a suitable spot. That could have been done by our own reconnaissance, so a light cavalry regiment. More than likely, we're going to have ID'd where we think we can go, and then armoured recce. Okay, they have their special reconnaissance, all kinds of measuring sticks, gauges. They're going to tell if it's correct or not. Traditionally, they would have been on a CVRT platform, a Spartan perhaps. Now, more than likely to be one of the Ajax variants, or indeed a Warrior. As we've touched on, and we've gone on about, this is a high-value target. We are not going to let that go to any form of crossing by itself. Before it's moved, we're going to have a troop of tanks, if we were an armoured battle group, watching this spot, looking out in depth to make sure there's no enemy over there. Move into the crossing, it's going to be protected. It could be 4 warriors, it could be 2 tanks. It depends what we've got on hand. Reinforcing the fact that this is vital. We would rather lose another armoured asset than lose one of these, because we don't have that many of them.
And again, we always, and again, part of the history, the museum still teaches that idea of what can we learn from the past. The classic situation is always, we never think we've got enough tanks, but we certainly never have enough armoured engineering variants, do we, sort of thing. So over time, this is something that we have to learn again. We saw the craft, it's over there with the dozer blade. You know, if you're going in an urban setting, you're going to be needing that dozer blade for so many different reasons now. So the fact that Challenger, we can fit a dozer blade on the front. All this sort of engineering assets can be vital, or will be vital, wherever we're going to fight.
I'm very glad you mentioned the dozer blade, because I was actually part of it wasn't really a trial because we successfully did it. This was whilst we were out in Estonia for the first time since, I believe, Chieftain. We actually fit a track width mine plough onto a Challenger 2. So normally you'd see that on the Trojan, the other T2 variant, the big angry one that clusters up. We managed to put that on a Challenger 2 and have the similar effect. Your point on urban warfighting. Most of the world is going to be living in urban environments soon. Whether we like it or not, we have to be able to fight in that environment. The craft can do that with its blade. Spying over there with my recce eyes, we can see a recce vehicle coming to the fore. This is very much something that's not really used for the urban environment. What we've got here is Jackal 3. Okay, Jackal 3, this is the latest incarnation of the Jackal, and I believe it's the first time it's appeared with the British Army here at Tankfest. Crewed by the Light Cavalry Regiments, what is it? It's a deep reconnaissance and fire support vehicle. Today on there, we have, up the top there, we've got Lance Corporal Watson from the Scots DG. Driving it today, we've got Lance Corporal Ryan from the Queen's Dragoon Guards. And the biggest round of applause I want is for Mr. Wayne Dennis, the Army's most important civil servant, commanding it. He has been with ATU for over 20 years. I can guarantee you that man has put more kit and equipment into the hands of our soldiers than any other. He deserves his recognition there. Anyway, what does the vehicle do? It travels at road speeds when it's on the road, 100 kilometres an hour. It can go 50, 60 cross-country if you're brave enough. The key things that you're noticing with the Jackal 3 there, it's got a windscreen. It's got a windscreen and it's got the enhanced rollover protection, or ROPS as we call it, on the top, which allows it to actually have a roof. It's slightly boxier, slightly heavier than the Jackal 2, therefore the engine's been upgraded, gives it better protection as well, and it's still got that classic V-shaped hull underneath. Designed to operate at length, its last use was Op Newcombe in Mali, where Chupanese were able to go out for a week at a time, being able to move it by the road, not dependent on rail systems. And here's another one of these vehicles. So what we've got here, the Foxhound, today crewed by Sergeant Duncan driving it, Sergeant Jackson driving it, and WO2 Duncan of the King's Royal Hussars. This is a light protected patrol vehicle, okay, designed to operate at length. Unlike a protected mobility vehicle, which tend to be a little bit larger, this isn't going to go into high threat environments. This was paired with Jackals on Op Newcombe. A direct replacement for the Snatch Land Rovers.
That idea of someone who's trying to protect you as a primary asset, not just a vehicle. And you can see there that speed of those vehicles. I'm always fascinated. They're torsion bars down the side, aren't they? So you can actually see the springing mechanism of those funny rods going down the side.
Talking about modular, future-proofing wheeled vehicles, what we've got here is Boxer. Okay, MIV, mechanised infantry vehicle. We'll get the good stuff out of the way first. Crew today, we have got Lance Corporal Smith driving it, and we've got Staff Sergeant Smith of the Royal Regiment of Fusiliers commanding it. Unfortunately, a big friend of mine, Sergeant Major Latham, refused to get on here because he didn't want to be mentioned, but I've done it anyway. What is Boxer? Okay, Boxer is the future, the backbone of our heavy mechanised infantry brigades, okay, and indeed some of the armoured ones. What is Boxer not? Some people think this is given as a replacement to Warrior. It's not going to be that. It's not designed to be that. Multiple variants have already been in use. This vehicle has been in use in Germany, in the Netherlands, in Lithuania, in Australia. It is a successful vehicle. We know it's good. We're going to be getting about 600 of these. The initial tranche is going to be built in Germany. The remaining going to be brought over here to the UK, providing around 1,000 British jobs.
Now, one of the first things you see about this is scale, isn't it? It is a big-looking vehicle, but it's very mobile and very fast. And we also say in the past, you know, tracks will go places, wheels can't. Wheels have caught up in many areas, haven't they? There's still actually speed, cheaper, mobile, faster. So obviously for the military, and easier to maintain. So obviously militaries like wheel vehicles, don't they?
I recoil at the term cheaper. You know, it's a cost-effective version of it. The logistical chain is much smaller, but you're absolutely right. The Boxer is a big vehicle, 32 to 38 tonnes. The variants we're going to be getting, this is actually the engineer variant. It's very hard to tell from the outside, but inside you sacrifice half of the seats that you would have a section of infantry in to be replaced, in effect, with a Boxer. You can put det cord, charges, all of that in there. Medical one is going to be slightly higher. And having been in the medical variant, the equipment in there is second to none. Currently going around in the old battlefield ambulances we've got, they're very much of their time. This, along with other vehicles such as Ajax, is the cornerstone of us moving forward.
And when you look at this, so we said that word modular. For most people here, if you remember, go back, I'm a Thunderbirds generation person. So the pod on the back can be lifted off. So if you look at that vehicle from almost about, halfway down, that rear section can be lifted off, and a different pod put on for a different role should you need it. And there's going to be a range of those sort of different roles we know they're going to be used for, so different pods. And they're developing it further, aren't they? It may well be that the new 155 artillery system goes basically on the back of a Boxer.
And that looks like a very exciting prospect, having read
seen it already this afternoon, but still in service. There's a tendency to already say it's gone. It isn't. It's still around.
No, it's not gone. And whilst the regiments traditionally using this are moving on to Boxer, Warrior has found a new lease of life. Now, before we get technical, we've got very, very important people on this vehicle today. Clearly all important, but we've got Sergeant with a J, because he's a rifleman, Sergeant Colville gunning. We've got Colour Sergeant Gifford commanding. And the round of applause that I want to hear today. Driving, we've got Warrant Officer 2, Mikey Dutton. This is his last thing he's been doing. He's going to be leaving the army in 3 months or so after 25 years of service. Originally starting with the PWRR, he joined the Fusiliers because he loved the Warrior that much.
I was going to say, pretty much everyone who's served in a Warrior, they do like it. They think it's a great bit of kit, don't they?
It is. Movement, relative reliability, the ability to stop on its nose. It really can stop on a sixpence. What we've started using them for now is reconnaissance. I know you may think reconnaissance is a big noisy vehicle, but we can change the way we do reconnaissance. With drones, it allows you to increase recce standoff. What would have had a crew of 3 if we got here, and 7 in the back? Well, we used to use CVRTs, now we're using Warrior. You've got all that room in the back. All the vehicles now are getting, got 360 cameras, but with that high threat that possibly, dare I say, drones are creating, you want to be able to have full visibility 360 degrees without having to be exposed above the turret. When that's being used properly, it's going to be used in conjunction with this, okay? Challenger 2. As we see here, up armoured, everything we can do. This is the infamous Megatron. Our favourite tank from over the road at ATU. This is pretty much what we can do with a Challenger 2 top end. A combination of OES and TES. If you want to get into a technical debate about what the difference is, Staff Sergeant Anthony Cherritt of the KRH is your guy to do that. He told me he'd love to do that. We've got the remote weapon system. We've got the ECM suite at the top. We've got the add-on armour. This is the pinnacle. If we're going to go into a high threat environment, this is what we're doing it in. 3rd generation main battle tank. We've got composite armour. We've got the fully automated electronic fire control system, meaning irrespective of what speed we're travelling, we can use that weapon system from a fully stabilised position. A quick shout out to those on board and the ones that you can't see. Driving today, we've got Trooper Thompson from the RTR, we've got Lance Corporal Reeler from the RTR, and commanding, we have our Canadian 2IC from ATU, Major Ben Mitchell.
So in many ways, Megatron's become a bit of a star, hasn't it? Because it's always the one that comes down here, gets photographed, it's always the one with the extras on. And this is a plea because, of course, when Challenger 3 comes into service, we want you to leave Megatron here so it can become a collection piece. I'm sure you can sign that off. You've got the right pay grade, haven't you? So.
I mean, above my pay grade, but I'm all for it.
Okay, so it is that, and I keep coming back to, that's the point. You look at all those other bits of kit there, just the idea, someone's got a great idea, we add it to the vehicle, it may be very positive, but what if it interferes with something else? You can see it physically there with things like bar armour, why it needs to be mobile, why it can rock at the back if you've got all those things, but also other bits of electronics. If they're interfering with each other, we've done no one any favours.
That's why we tried it, that's why we tested it, you're absolutely right. I can think of only a couple of trials where some really good piece of kit has been on it, but integration has been the drama. And unfortunately, with the older platforms, that's something that you learn to live with. Thankfully, from those lessons learned, we try and stop those issues becoming apparent on the newer vehicles.
And this idea that there's so many modern plug-in systems, that idea we've got an infrastructure now that, again, in the past, the electronics were almost separate for everything. Now we can take one thing out, plug something in, or that's the idea one hopes, isn't it?
Modularity, as we've said, buzzword, but it's all about that, future-proofing and modularity.
So one other thing, when the Challenger 2s, obviously some of those Challenger 2 hulls being used in Challenger 3s, they're being upgraded, of course. What we're looking at here as well, the hunter-killer system, and he's going to use his smoke, so be warned as we go around, he's doing that just by putting diesel on the hot exhaust, and it's a way of creating, and it also acts against thermal as well to a degree, doesn't it?
It does. So we're fortunate because at the front you'll see we do have the normal multi-barrel smoke grenade discharges. Much more of a defensive thing. We really need to get out of trouble, let's pop it. But the ability to blast smoke by simply going the diesel on. Can create confusion and it can mask our movement. But what you've got to remember with smoke is it works both ways. We can't magically see through our own smoke, so it needs to be used liberally.
And again,